With the rise of industrial civilization, there also arose a social body which we know as the middle class. Before that, most of the world suffered under a feudal system in which the people were truly slaves of their governments in all things. There was no strong buffer between them and their despotic rulers, no assurance of freedom to pursue commerce and live decently, to keep the fruits of their labor and hold the paying of tribute to a minimum. The middle class made the dream of liberty a possibility, set limits on the government, fought for its constitutions, removed much of governmental privilege and tyranny, demanded that rulers obey the just laws as closely as the people, and enforced a general civic morality. Historians look to the experience of Rome, the first to encourage a middle class, noting that Rome had been a strong and prosperous republic, with much public virtue, a large degree of freedom for every citizen, and a constitution, the 12 Tables of Law, on which our own is based. After the fall of Rome, governments had everywhere destroyed the middle class, returned to despotism, and entered the Dark Ages. It had been centuries since a rising middle class resolved to keep government at a minimum and to force respect for the people and eschew tribute except for such absolute necessities as armed forces, street protection, and the guarantee of authority of contracts in commerce. Those who for centuries had ruled their nations from father to son in total despotism realized that they were threatened. Were they not the elite by divine right? Were they not by birth and money entitled to rule a nation of docile slaves? Did the people not understand that they were truly inferior dogs who needed a strong hand to rule them, and should they not be meek before their government? Little wonder that the elite hated the middle class, which challenged them in the name of God-given liberty. And little wonder that this hatred grew deeper as the middle class became stronger, and imposed restrictions through which all the people, including the most humble, had the right to rule their own lives and keep the greater part of what they earned for themselves. Clearly, if the elite were to rule again, the middle class had to be destroyed. It had to be destroyed so despotism and the system of tribute could be returned, and grandeur and honor and immense riches for the elite, assuring their monopoly to rule the world. For you see, the elite of all nations, then as now, were not divided. They were one international class, and worked together and protected each other. But the middle class laughed and said, "We will bind you with the chains of our constitution, which you must obey also, lest we depose you. For we are now powerful, and we are human beings, and we wish to be free from your old despotism." The elite did not give up. While it profited from the Industrial Revolution, which under liberty of enterprise freed the people from the feudal and despotic systems, and which gave a new birth to the middle class, it also hated the threat to its own authority. It did not wish to destroy the Industrial Revolution. It wished to use it for its exclusive purposes. In the early 19th century, this elite looked for a way, once and for all, to regain its power and extort tribute from the people, and so destroy the burgeoning middle class which stood in its way, and to subdue the populaces again to their proper role as slaves of government by the elite. Through the League of Just Men, elitist conspirators sought a fanatic to cloak the point of their purposes in slogans and cant. The man they hired was Karl Marx. Certainly Marx was no worker. He had never soiled his hands with labor. He hated the middle class, which he contemptuously called the bourgeoisie, for he considered himself superior in mentality and breeding to what he called, quote, the gross merchants of commerce and exploitation, close quote. He did not attack the waiting despots. No, indeed. They were of one mind with him. Rather, he proposed in his books and pamphlets the return to government of the total power to exact tribute from the people in order that government might better direct every phase of the people's lives, as he asserted, quote, for their own welfare, close quote. The elite, in turn, would control the governments. Marx began to accuse the middle class of heinous crimes and arouse the workers against their benefactors. He labored to create envy and malice among the workers, all aimed at the entrepreneurial middle class, which had raised them from serfdom, restored their human dignity, and given them liberty for the first time in nearly 2,000 years. Karl Marx was made to order by the self-styled elite. They financed the propaganda of his sedition all over Europe and in America. They bled France and Germany with it. They financed sedition in Russia. And the plan began to succeed. By 1910, the Scandinavian countries had already fallen to the socialism of Karl Marx. Only 3 nations stood between the elite and their ambitions: the British Empire, Tsarist Russia, and the United States of America. Much is now made of supposed Tsarist tyranny, but the fact is that the Tsar of Russia had already granted his people a greater measure of freedom. A constitution had been established, and a parliamentary system. Russia, too, was well on her way to nourishing and encouraging a middle class. The elitists were anxious to promote the Marxist notion of demanding tribute from the people, for only through forced tribute could freedom be destroyed and the people reduced again to forced labor for the benefit of the elite. Only thus could the middle class be eliminated. So we have Karl Marx's infamous notion, quote, "to each according to his needs, from each according to his ability," close quote. That is a foundation for slavery and tribute.